welcome everyone to the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners meeting of March 2nd, 2021 at 6 p.m. If everyone would please stand, we're going to do our invocation and a pledge by Commissioner White's going to lead us.
Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you for another wonderful day on this planet, Lord, and we ask your wisdom and guidance in making the best decisions we can for the county. Lord, we just ask you to look over all the people that's been ill from the virus and those that have gone on to another place, a better place, and help console their families. Lord, look after our firefighters and first responders and military and their families. Lord, we ask all this in your name. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Our first item of business is approval of minutes from our February 16th and our February 23rd, 2021 meetings. Do I have any questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Land,
Second.
second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. This time we move on to the consent agenda. I have items 2 through 20. Before I call for a motion, I would like Mr. Pravat to bring us up to speed on item number 3.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, the one that was sent out in the packet needed to be corrected. On Friday, the governor entered another order extending Executive Order 2020-52, extending the emergency for 60 more days. And so I wanted to make sure that it got noted in this order, so that's all the change that was made. It's in paragraph 3 on the first page and paragraph 2 on the second page. Just noting the new order of 2021-45. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Do I have any other questions or comments on items 2 through 20, or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, we'll move into general business. Item 21 is discuss with possible board action, internet cafe hours of operation. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll make this brief. We've received some phone calls wanting to know what, if anything, the County Commission can do to regulate hours of operation of internet cafes. I don't have any first-hand knowledge of what's going on with those, but apparently, from what I have heard, there have been some issues with people that live in close proximity to some of these things complaining about late hours and people carrying on in parking lots when they are leaving these things in the middle of the night. Again, I don't have any first-hand knowledge. I don't know what they do in internet cafes. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. I'd spoken to Mr. Pravat about this. We do have the ability, as we do with other businesses, to regulate the hours, and just wanted to get your thoughts on that. If you choose to do so, then it would happen in a public hearing by ordinance. We would have to advertise that, bring it back, provide the public an opportunity to speak on that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I would say before, I want to ask the board for some input, but I see Ms. Hannah Skinner's in the back. I'd like for her to come forward, share a couple of comments with us. She has a business that is in very close proximity to one of these, and I would like to hear what she has to say with some episodes that's taken place, and then we'll have some open discussion. And if you have any questions for her, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to answer. Ms. Skinner, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Home address?
That's fine.
Okay. My name is Hannah Skinner. My address is 10176 US 90 32060, of course, Live Oak.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, fellow citizens of Suwannee County. As Commissioner Stapleton said, my name is Hannah Skinner, and I'm a business owner here in Suwannee County. And I stand tonight not only before the Commissioners, but also before the citizens of Suwannee County to encourage you and to show that I'm in support of implementing regulations on the hours of operations for internet cafes. These establishments go by various other names: cyber cafes, adult arcades, and sweepstakes cafes, to name a few. Regardless of what they are called, they already stand in a uniquely favored position as a largely unregulated business. In the county, the cafes operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our county and city have seen an increase in this specific type of business over the last couple of years, and with the influx of the cafes, we need to have specific ordinances in place to protect not only the patrons of the cafes, but also our local businesses. The nature of my business is fitness-related, and I own a personal training studio that is located near an internet cafe. My workday starts very early in the morning. Upon arrival, which is typically before the sun comes up, the internet cafe next to me will, on a regular basis, have numerous people congregating in the parking lot. The trash of whatever they are consuming while they're loitering usually ends up in my parking lot. But I'm not here tonight to try to convince someone to not be a litter bug. I'm here to simply inform you all what I have witnessed and experienced firsthand to service proof that regulations are absolutely necessary. There are two specific incidences that I will present to you briefly. On January 22nd of this year, I arrived at 5 a.m. to my studio at the same time as two of my clients. The internet cafe's parking lot was full of sheriff's deputies' cars. It had been robbed at gunpoint prior to our arrival. On February 12th, upon arrival, also early in the morning, my clients and I witnessed two men in a physical altercation in the parking lot. The yelling grew louder and the fighting continued. The cafe offers no security. So in order to protect my clients and myself, it was my responsibility to contact law enforcement. These events have caused me to lose business. My business has been and is directly affected by this business's inability to operate in a safe manner. In our area, these types of situations and worse are happening at unregulated businesses like internet cafes. Due to the circumstances like this, the only responsible public policy is to enact and enforce an ordinance that establishes reasonable hours of operations for internet cafes. This is not a drastic measure, but it is one that will serve to protect our businesses and our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Skinner. Do I have any questions for Ms. Skinner before she steps away? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I've witnessed what's went on at these places, and they've been coming across our desk for the last year because we've had a situation with COVID to where there were so many people gathering in one place that we had to put limitations on it. So it's kind of been at our forefront. And when I travel back through Live Oak, I mean, you can see the amount of people that's there. And obviously it's, at certain times, there's more than others. I would just like to say that I would like to see us engage in some type of hours. I've looked on the internet and kind of researched some of their hours. Some of them shows 24-hour operations. Some of them show they open at 10 a.m. and maybe close at 12 midnight. I'm in favor of something along the hours of 10 a.m. to 12 midnight. And I would like to see what the board feels, if anyone else feels so moved to.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, if I could just speak to a technicality. You don't want to breach the public hearing question. What we really need, what staff needs, is for you to decide whether or not you want to have a public hearing for this purpose, and then y'all could go into that discussion.
As far as the actual hours,
Yes, sir.
so we'd have to bring it back in 2 weeks.
All we need to know is if you want to bring it back, because we would have to advertise it. We have to meet the advertising requirements for adoption or even consideration of an ordinance. So I just need for the board to decide if there's at least 3 of you that want to entertain a public hearing for the purpose of making a decision.
You need that in the form of a motion
Yes, sir.
or just a consent? Offer motion that we,
Advertise,
for advertise.
advertise public hearing for that purpose. That's all we need.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming.
Just before we, just something I'd like to add to that, Mr. Chairman. When we come back with that, is there any way, I don't know how many we have in this town, in our county. Can we at least have a count as to how many of those we have?
We can try.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, but I'm in favor of having the discussion, for sure. So I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming, second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Is that only for the ones located in the county, or would that also include the ones in the city as well?
I think the city is doing something. I've heard that the city is taking a look at these things. I don't know what the city is doing. We will get a count on all of them, but ours would be a county ordinance, which would typically fall outside the municipality, and I don't know what the city is.
Well, how was we able to close them down then, when we had COVID?
Under the
issue?
emergency order, under the emergency declaration.
The state.
We had the ability to do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the town of Brantford just outright banned them altogether, so
And I'm proud of those folks.
just so you know, you won't have to worry about that part of it, but
Can we reach out to the city, Mr. Chairman, and maybe see, what they're thinking, and maybe we can align ourselves with them, so it's, I know they're separate, Mr. Pravat, but maybe we could reach out to those guys so that we kind of operate, I know we can't operate as one, but you see what I'm saying? Maybe align ourselves on the same page potentially.
And
I
Mr.
think they have a moratorium out that they're gonna come bring it back, similar to what we're doing, trying to find out, we got a consensus motion to get it, to do it, but I think that they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, when you say more, I think the moratorium they're speaking of is they're not going to allow any more to come
Yeah.
and be open at this time or something while they do a study or whatever they.
Right.
But I don't have a problem with legal counsel, I guess would speak with it.
I've already been in contact with them just briefly. This was, to see how far we wanted to go. The city at this point is exploring other things that go beyond just operation of hours, getting into zoning and other, or considering, those types of things. And I've been in touch with them and their council, as well as the city manager or city administrator, want to have an opportunity to get together, and we're trying to arrange that. So what we were trying to get is a feel, are y'all interested in that? Be able to get together and try to stay, in line maybe.
Regardless if it takes time, though, we can have a temporary hour assessed on them until we get with the city and come up with something permanent, couldn't we? I mean, as
sir.
long as we advertise and come back and discuss it.
Yes, sir.
I didn't mean to get the cart in front of the horse to anybody that was here. I mean, I was trying to go ahead and get everything fixed tonight. But I understand everybody needs opportunity to speak, and that's not a problem at all. Just trying to say. So we can speak with the city more. I'm fine with trying to get a permanent plan in order with them. I would be.
Mr. Chairman, we can go ahead and address the hours of operation in a public hearing sooner.
Right.
There are, for example, lots of other things that you can consider and come back and have an additional public hearing on at a later date when we're prepared for that, such as minimum distances from, by way of example, daycares, private schools, churches,
Workout facilities.
things of that nature, oxygen. In any event, we can bring those things back. But for now, I think a key issue would be to consider the hours of operation, and that would give us time to consider other things and communicate with the city as well.
I want all business to be able to operate and be productive, but it doesn't matter what type of business it is. It can't be at the expense of other businesses. I mean, everybody has to work in unison, and we have to find that happy spot. And this is just one of the avenues we have to go down to get there. So I'm sure we'll advertise, and I'm sure we'll have some of those folks that want to come speak and argue on behalf of their side, and that's what this place is for. So we'll give them an opportunity to do that. Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, we'll move on to item number 22, discuss with possible board action, RFP number 2021-05 for real estate brokerage services. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we received 3 responses to our request for proposals. I gave you the information that they had forwarded to us. We actually put them in a tabulation sheet for you. We were looking at the fees for their services. It appears we got a response from Caldwell Banker, St. Augustine. Theirs was the highest proposal, 7%, up to $100,000, and then they reduce it to 6% thereafter. Pool Realty submitted at 6% of purchase price. And then there's an online service that was formerly GovDeals. I think govdeals.com is what it was, but it's now Liquidity Services Operations. Theirs was the lowest proposal at 0 fee to the county, a 5% buyer's fee if Suwannee County collects the payment from the winning bidder. This is an online bid service. And you're seeing more, you've probably all of you have seen these by now. There are quite a few of them out there that are liquidating government assets. In any event, they offer a 5% fee that the buyer has to pay if Suwannee County collects the payment. And then if Liquidity Services Operations collects it, it's a 7% fee that the buyer has to pay. So we've presented all 3 for your consideration on the brokerage services. And let me just say, for those that may not be familiar, if you make a selection, we would then come back to the board with surplus properties. You've already identified some. We would present a task order that would specifically speak to these by agreement with the brokerage company before we do anything. We'd have a written agreement, typically in the form of a task order, like we do with our engineers.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Any questions, comments from the board? What's the pleasure?
I'll speak about it.
Commissioner Lamb?
I'm a real estate guru. Mr. Chairman, you know, and my kind of take on it is I know that the liquidity service operations is a lesser expensive to the eye, but I'll use an example. Hypothetically, let's just say that this parcel that we're selling appraises for, or is worth $100,000. Well, if the buyer is using financing, I mean, the bank's going to get an appraisal, and it's only going to appraise for whatever it's worth. Meaning he's going to have to use that number on his loan to value with the bank. So if the normal commission would come off the purchase price paid by the seller, as in Mr. Poole presented. If the property appraises for 100, the buyer is not going to pay, and we're asking 100, the buyer is not going to pay a 5%. I won't say he won't. Very few buyers are going to pay an additional 5% above what the property is appraised at. And if they do, the bank certainly isn't going to finance it because it's in excess of what the appraisal is on the parcel. So what it comes down to is, hey, seller, will you reduce your purchase price, you know, to make the financing work, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'll just be honest with you. I like Mr. Poole. His proposal's just a straight 6% across the board. On $100,000, you're only talking about 1%. He lives here. He pays taxes here. He owns a lot of property here. He's local. He contributes to our schools and our little league teams, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, to save $1,000 on a $100,000 piece of property, to, you know, I don't know. I kind of like staying local for the peanuts, in my opinion. I think most of these surplus properties, Mr. Harris can attest to it, are going to be, I would say, less than 100,000. You know, most of them, smaller size parcels. So we're not talking about $500,000 tracts or anything. So that's just kind of my take on it, but I'm just one of 5, so whatever.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamb. Any other comments? Commissioner White, looks like something on your mind.
No, I'm with Travis there on that. That's kind of the way I see it too.
Fair enough, gentlemen. Do I have that in the form of a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Say again. You got a second?
He said got a motion.
I was watching these two talk, and then I got these two that hadn't said anything. They gonna do the motions.
Hey, I like them jumping on the train, baby.
They just did all the talking for us, I mean.
Mind readers over here.
So I got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 23, discuss with possible board action, funding for sheriff's radios. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have literally talked this one to death. In your last meeting, the board agreed that we would go ahead and that we were going to get these radios. We were waiting for a legal opinion and an auditor's opinion on the use of the funding. I have provided to you a legal opinion from Neighbors Giblin, well-respected law firm out of Tallahassee that also handles our MSBU's for us. They gave us a legal opinion. I shared that with Mr. Powell, the county's auditor. And then I had a meeting with our finance department, and together we had a conference call with Mr. Powell. In fact, Mr. Powell's written response is in here as well. He concurs with the use of the funding. It will not require a budget amendment prior to the utilization of the funds, because we've received the funds. They're already in general revenue. Later, like we typically do after the fact or the end of the year, after the end of the year, we will have a budget amendment that reflects all of the changes that have occurred throughout the year, and very often we'll do that when we have unanticipated revenues throughout the year. But in any event, at this time, we have the funding in place, and we can go ahead and move on this if the board chooses to do so. In this case, I am recommending, as I did before, that we purchase, the county commission purchase the radio equipment. You've got the price in there with Williams Communications. It's $995,000 plus. But the actual service for the SLURS system operating on the state's tower system is a separate contract that the sheriff would enter into. We would not be a party to that because there's a subscription rate for that, a monthly fee. I think it's $14 per radio that the sheriff would enter into. The price of the equipment is $995,058.20 with Williams Communications. I will also point out for your consideration on the last page of that agreement, the one titled Terms and Conditions of Sale, it points out that at time of issuance of purchase order, we'd have to pay 50% of the total cost, and then 40% after the equipment is installed, and then the final 10%. I guess they've got that set up kind of like a retainage, but the final 10% upon acceptance. So that's what I have for you this evening.
I have any questions for Mr. Harris or any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll add a few more comments if I could. When Mr. Harris referred to the terms and conditions of sale, they're only for the Williams portion of it, but the agenda item says for county attorney review, and I do not agree with those terms of conditions and sale, and I would, make changes there. Specifically, I'd be looking at paragraphs 2, 3, 5, and 7. Paragraph 2, they not only do they talk about the payment terms, but they also talk about a late payment thing, which is more than what the statutory rate is. If you move to paragraph 3, we need to make sure that we're going to get all of this done. The quote is only good for 60 days, which would expire on March 13th. So we need to get an agreement from Harris that, we can get that extended to be able to get all of this other paperwork done.
Williams. Williams. The Harris one is the tower system.
I said Harris again? Well, I
Yeah.
meant
Williams.
Williams, but I've got a comment on
Here's
Harris's
what
part of
Here's what I
this,
would
too.
propose, though. I would propose that if the board wants to go forward with this thing, let it be pending county review and sheriff participating in that as well, and let us resolve the outstanding issues to make sure that they comply with everything that we would require.
Was there one more issue, though?
Well, there's actually two things.
Are
One
you
was-
okay if I let him just finish speaking about it, Mr. Harris, just so we know what his,
Yeah,
on his
that's
mind?
fine.
But
I'm
I
fine
agree
with
with
that.
you.
I'm fine with that, but we may find more. So what I'm going to suggest to you we go forward, the sheriff is going to be dealing with the Harris part of it, with the towers. We'll be dealing with the purchase of the equipment. So I don't have any problem with that. But if we find more, we need to have the ability to fix whatever needs to be fixed.
No, I'm in agreement with you. I want to leave here this evening and this be taken care of, but I do want,
I do too.
I do want to let the legal counsel just make note of what, go ahead.
And one of the other things that's in there under paragraph 5, they have choice of law provision, which takes us over to Leon County, and we don't want to give up our home rule venue privilege to be able to do that. And then paragraph 7, where the expenses of litigation, hopefully there won't be any litigation, but it's one-sided that if we win, that we don't, if we win, we don't get anything, but if they win or even file a lawsuit, we have to pay for their expenses. So it's just something that's a little unusual. We need a mutual type agreement right there. I'd also note in the regular parts of the agreement for the sheriff's part that the Harris contract is dated and it expired in July of 2020. I've heard that there's a renewal out there. I have not been able to locate it. It also needs to be provided to us. And the same thing for the Zetron contract. It expired, but in your packet, you have a sample of what would be expected for the extension, but none of it is in there to be able to do that. So those are additional items that I'll have to address with the sheriff to get those things completed.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask the sheriff to come forward. Sheriff, I just wanted, if you had any comments you'd like to add to it, I mean, we're fixing to take a vote here on this, but I want to make sure you're happy with what you're hearing.
Yeah, I'll just have to get with Mr. Pravat afterward. This was, I didn't realize there was some technical issues there in the contract, but, you know, I'm sure we can work it out because as anxious as I am to get the radios for my department in the people of Suwannee County, I think Williams Communication is that anxious to tell it to us, you know, to get it going. And I think that we can definitely work through this. I didn't realize there were some tactical issues, but I think, you know, I'm real confident we can get this done. If we can, here again, it's up to the board to go forward, and once if y'all do decide to do that, I can tell you probably tomorrow I'll be in Mr. Pravat's office, and we'll be on the phone getting this thing squared away.
I got you. Okay. I just wanted to make sure you're still as passionate as you was last time you was up here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then some.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
I have any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion that we, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we move forward this, you know, again, contingent that our, Mr. Pravat is kept in the loop and kind of watches out for our interest on the terminology and irons that out with Sheriff right back there.
I have a motion by Commissioner Lamb.
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. At this time, we have one additional agenda item, I believe. And that item is adoption of a language access plan. Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir, let me find mine. This is actually a requirement
Here you go.
under the Civil Rights Act that addresses trying to satisfy a need that persons with limited English proficiency might experience when they want to participate in meetings or public hearings. We need to have a adoption of a plan. So this is your opportunity. This is the plan that's in your packet. 4-factor analysis and language access plan for limited English proficiency persons. In this specific case, we need to do this because of the public hearing that we're about to have that's regarding CDBG funding.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Do I have any questions or comments, or do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Fleming,
A second.
second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Greg Scott, seeing he'd come up and speak for just one moment. I had some questions, a couple of calls about concerns of the river flooding and the properties and boaters and things of that nature. And I'd ask Mr. Scott to do a little research for us and just kind of bring us up to speed on where we're at.
We get it every day during the flooding periods. We get an update from some water management on the conditions of the river. It's
Pull your microphone down just a little bit. There you go.
showing now that the rivers are, at Ellaville, are starting to drop. By the end of the week, Branford will be dropping. It'll be a slow process, but reached out to Game and Fish today and asked about, I know you got some calls about folks on the river. Generally, we'll close boat ramps when we feel like it needs to be. At the same time, sometimes people on the river need to get out. So it's a fine line there of how quick we do, making sure they have access to get out if they need to. For example, at Royal Springs, we have a boat ramp and the spring piece there. We have a combination lock on the boat ramp. So let's say that Commissioner Land wants to go fishing. I'll take Travis. On, Tuesday morning before he goes to work, and he wants to go up at 5, he can call the office, get the combination, and that's fine. It's not keep people out, it's just keep people activity from happening that shouldn't be happening. So we do the same thing during flooding times, have the combination, so if somebody needs to get in or out, we can give it to them without having somebody physically go unlock a gate for them. In communication with Game and Fish today, they've had, there's zones on the river from Ellaville south, and each zone down to Fowler's Bluff, I believe, is all idle, no-wake zones now. They've had officers patrolling that, but it's many miles of river that they're patrolling to try to limit that, no-wake, enforcement. One thing they've asked us to do is, let the public be aware of what those zones are, try to help them facilitate that. They're designated. Most of them have signs of the boat ramp, or some of them do, that they provided years ago about zones and status. But ask us to get the word out via Facebook or social media or any other kind of way about the zones whenever they come into effect. We will do our part. We're not the lead agency on that. Certainly they are. But we'll do our part to do that as well, so people are aware there's a no-wake zone. What we're prepared to do, too, is where we do not have pipe gates or whatever at boat ramps, to put those up, leave them open during regular times, and during flooding times, we can always close them. But I know you're the ones that get the phone calls. A lot of times, we can handle things quicker if they called us, but they like calling y'all because y'all are accessible. But I want to get some input from y'all on, we're prepared to barricade or close off boat ramps at this point. The river is beginning to recede with the rains tonight and tomorrow. You don't know, how fast it goes up, but just like to get some feedback from the commission on if you'd like to see them closed. I know you've heard some things, but I'd like to kind of hear what you're hearing.
I have any questions, comments? I'm just in favor of, obviously folks that have property on the river and homes, they don't want boats speeding by at 60 miles an hour, creating a tidal wave that's going up in the windows.
Right.
That's my biggest concern is, and you spoke with Game and Fish, and if they feel like they have a good handle on it, I don't,
One thing I probably didn't add is they were suggesting that if we close boat ramps during these times would be helpful for them.
Gotcha.
To limit the access. Now, like in Branford, that's where most of the guys will put in their boats. I'm sure you can find the boat ramp if you know where it used to be.
Right.
But
It's in the parking lot.
right.
Can I ask Mr. Scott a question?
Yes, sir.
Would when you say close them, I don't want to infringe on anyone's right to go fishing as long as they respect the no wake and property owner's property. So when you say barricade and close, would the combination lock still be in effect? So the guy that, okay.
Right.
I mean,
I don't know if you want to fish right now, but
as well.
I'm not sure if you want to fish right now or not. But,
Well, I understand, but if,
But yeah, that's generally what we do is if, what I'd like to do is go ahead and just, we've got the funds in the budget, boat ramp fund to put up the pipe gates and things now, go ahead and start putting that in place. But anytime we do close the ramp, it's accessible, for that. Usually we'll just ask them to call, people to call, and the ones who fish know to call.
Right.
But,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for
Commissioner
Mr.
Hill.
Scott. And I hadn't looked at it today, but I think the peak is, what, this week, tomorrow, next day?
today and tomorrow for Branford.
Okay.
That's trending down toward the end of the week.
Right.
So even if we did, say, close the boat ramps, we're probably only talking, what, 2 weeks before?
Probably. Right. It's like, just so y'all aware too, and y'all may not be, but we close the springs whenever the river gets up, where we feel like it's unsafe, or if it starts, we don't want people driving through water on asphalt road to get to the spring where they can look at it. If you want to look at it, you can park at the gate and wade in. It's not good for the road to have vehicles go in and out and make it soft. So, but we close them off and we don't ask permission. We just do what we think's the right thing to do.
I would be in support of you just using your best, with working with game and fish and using your best judgment.
Okay.
I would like to just put that in your hands because you're in charge of looking over most of them anyway, so.
yeah.
We'll do that. And we have a great relationship with Game and Fish. They do a lot of patrolling for us and aren't afraid to hurt people's feelings if we need them to. So it's always better to have them do it than have the sheriff have to do it.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask?
Yes, sir.
Greg something? Hey, are you doing the Santa Fe too, all the boat ramps on the Santa Fe?
Well, it would just be Guy Lemon Park there at 129.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I prefer if game and fish and you get involved in it and they can control it better. They're out there, say that we're discussing it, but that's their job. They know more about it than we do.
Right.
My preference is to let game and fish handle it and you get involved with it.
Good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. At this time, I will open the floor to public comments. Do I have anyone from the public wishing to speak this evening? Seeing none, I will close public comments. Thank you. Moving ahead at this time, we'll go to closing comments. Mr. Pravat, you have anything additional?
No, sir, not this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Harris? Thanks, sir. Commissioner White?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I took a tour with Mr. Norris out to the Benderholtz sawmill last week and was really impressed with what they had going on. They were updating and repairing a lot of the damage or worn parts and stuff that was out there, and had a good talk with the folks that are running it, and I think it's going to be a lot better deal this go around than the last one. So real encouraged by that and just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Land?
No, sir, I'd just like to, I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to state publicly so that they know. I mean, over the weekend, I got hammered with emails and calls about the splash pad not going through. I mean, hammered. And I don't know who spread that rumor, but the splash pad is happening. So just publicly, we're going to do the splash pad.
Yeah, I got quite a few.
I had to call and.
I don't know
sure I
who
didn't
started
miss
that
something.
rumor, but somebody
that's-
lit a fire and
I was trying to think back to our meeting and see if something was said that wasn't right, but Mr. Scott?
Whenever I saw that, we started correcting that as quick as we could. But I did remind Mr. Hale, he called me and asked me about it in case he missed something. I said, just remember, this was what happens when you turn us down.
That's right.
Thank you.
Just the rec department, he was saying.
Right.
that's all I got. Just reminding the folks that we full steam ahead on that deal.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Fleming.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything, but I'm just glad to see so many people out tonight concerned about what's going on in this county, and I think it's good. I love Suwannee County. I'm glad to see so many people out tonight. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hale.
No, sir, I'm just echoing Commissioner Lamb, I am team splash pad.
That is no doubt. I knew this thing would be popular. I just didn't realize it'd be quite that popular.
When
that
you
quick.
told them no, it got real popular. Or somebody said that, we said no, it got real popular.
No, anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
I just glad to see everybody. Glad, hopefully. Mr. Norris, you've missed your opportunity. You can come back next week.
I thought Commissioner White was going to talk about it, but he didn't. I prepped him about this earlier.
What are you talking about?
It's a long story. See what I'm saying? Just real quick, I want to remind everybody, it's kind of unique and unusual. We've got 2 grand openings going on this weekend, Harbor Freight and Tractor Supply in Branford. So when we talk about business coming, if you're out and about, go by and frequent those places. They're kind of keeping it, because of COVID and distancing, kind of unofficial, but it is what they're considering their grand opening. So 2 pretty much the same time in the same county on the same day, that's a good thing.
You're right, my bad.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I forgot one other thing. Last meeting, we talked about the ribbon cutting, opening up the arena, and talked with, or emailed back and forth with the representative. He's in the hospital, by the way, and with pneumonia, so keep him in your prayers. But we picked out the 19th at 10 o'clock at the arena, do a ribbon cutting. So if y'all put it on y'all's calendar and try to be there if you can. But
What's that date?
the 19th of this month, March 19th,
Time,
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
We'll have some other activities going on at the same time with the, I believe with some livestock, but always good to have activity.
Well, Mr. Scott's up there, because I got a few calls on, do you mind just going over what activities are taking place right now and what we have going on?
Sure. Baseball and softball is underway. The teams are practicing this week. We got everybody squared away with teams. That was a good thing. We've got, just had at the rodeo, the Little Britches competition last weekend. Big turnout for that. Those folks come in and spend money.
They do.
And then they go home. Some of them are local folks, but we've got at the airport next weekend, we've got a fly-in with the the power parachuters that have little, looks like a little mini airboat on their shoulders. But anyway, that'll be about 200 people will be coming in for that. There was a activity a fly-in down south that they canceled and wanted to move it somewhere, and we were glad to let them come spend their money here. We're getting a lot of activity, or not a lot, but some activity from those guys and other people that's going to the campground, the fairgrounds and camping. But we're staying active.
And that's
always
open,
good.
that's open to the public at the
Yes.
airport?
Right, yes, sir. There'll be an access gate in the back for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Scott, you got anything else? What'd I tell you?
Buy that guy a notepad.
I was going to tease with Randy about the arcades and stuff, but we'll just say we weren't there together.
Right. I just want to say I appreciate everyone coming out. Looks great to see people being able to get out and feel a little safer. Obviously, we still got a long ways to go with this virus. It's been tough, but we're getting more vaccines out there, and that's obviously helping people's kind of learning the system and what to do to stay safe, and that's a positive. I would like to say also tonight to this new board, mainly, is I really enjoy being able to have a productive, positive meeting and get some things done. I mean, tonight we covered some ground, and that means a lot to me. And it's open discussion. We talked about it. We made a decision, and we moved forward. And that's what we're about. A lot of times we get bogged down and fight and argue and throw our sucker in the dirt, we don't get anything done. But tonight, it's just a good feeling tonight to be able to kind of get to that spot. And a lot of times it just takes time for people to get to understand how everybody is interacting and understanding what you want to do and how you want to go about getting your point across. But I just want to tell all four of you gentlemen, I appreciate you, and we'll move forward. One thing I will do tonight that even since we had a positive meeting, a year ago before COVID took over, I always would try to end a meeting with a positive quote. And so tonight it went well enough, I think I'll bring that back. The quote goes, "Don't wait for things to get easier, simpler, or better. Life will always be complicated. Learn to be happy right now, otherwise you'll run out of time." And that's a fact.
No doubt.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Have a motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner Land. All in favor say aye. Aye.